For each fight on this weekend's upcoming card, including for the prelims, I'm going to be comparing stats, reviewing recent fighter history, analyzing the results of my 7 data science prediction models, and giving a combined weighted prediction based on those models. I'll also provide my final prediction combining both quantitative and qualitative information together. Later this week, I'll upload a video covering promising underdogs, best inexpensive favorites, and prop bets for y'all to consider, which I'll highlight some great opportunities for you guys. Hopefully you can use these predictions and data to confirm your picks, avoid mistakes, find value bets, or just informative and entertainment purposes to prepare for the lead up to this weekend's event. Please like and subscribe if you find this content interesting, informative, or helpful. It helps keep me motivated to create these videos for you all. I've also added my Patreon information in the description if you'd like to support the channel through that. There's a $10 a month contribution tier and a $20 a month premium tier, which will give you early access to all of the analysis and results for my videos, as well as additional data analysis and stats. So that includes my prediction model results, fighter history, stat overviews, promising underdogs, best inexpensive favorites, prop bets to consider, and a deep dive into each fighter's record history and an analysis through each of their individual historical fights. So you'll get all sorts of stats and data analysis which will help you with your picks and bets. And for 20 bucks a month, which is around $5 per event, you can get all of that information. You can purchase event analysis separately, but the membership is cheaper and easier. Plus, you're directly helping improve and expand the content of this channel. Running this data and analysis, each of the prediction models, the fight simulations, and updating the site takes hours every day and week, so I'd greatly appreciate your support. And thank you all for the recent support that you have shown. It truly means the world to me that we can share our passion for MMA and continue to build this community together. The last thing that I want to mention is that there is a BetUS promotion in the description below. If you use that link, it's an affiliate link, so if you set up your account, you'll get a promotional offer with that. I'm excited to continue working on this analysis and content for you all. Thank you guys again for all of your support. Let's go ahead and dive right into the predictions. So first, let's cover the promising underdogs on this card, starting from the top with Nassourdine Imavov. Now, Imavov is 6 years younger than Israel Adesanya. He also lands 0.51 more strikes per minute. He has an 8% higher striking accuracy, a 2% higher striking defense. He lands 0.83 more takedowns on average. He has a 24% higher takedown accuracy, a 3% higher takedown defense, and he lands 1.1 more submissions on average than Adesanya does. Those are Imavov's statistical advantages. Now, all things considered, from the statistical breakdown, the prediction models, and all the research I do outside of the stats as well, I ended up giving Nassourdine Imavov about a 38% probability of victory with all things considered. And I think he's a great underdog to feature. The guy's won 15 fights. He's finished 67% of them. He's won 7 of his 10 UFC fights. Recently, he's been on absolute tear. Not only has he won 3 out of his last 5 fights, but he's actually won 3 fights in a row coming into this fight. So the guy has a lot of momentum on his side. The last time he lost was back in January of 2023, so it's been a long time since this guy has seen a loss, which makes him a good underdog as well. But what I really like about his game is that he's good at pressure fighting, he's good in the clinch work, he does a lot of different strikes, and he changes it up because I know Adesanya, he's known for his kickboxing, but Imavov, he kind of brings more of this diverse Muay Thai influenced style. So he kind of mixes in those elbows, knees, and some of those unconventional strikes, and that's going to be a bit of a challenge for Adesanya. Now, full disclosure, I still ended up picking Adesanya to win. Obviously, if I'm giving Imavov a 38% probability of victory, well, that means I'm giving Adesanya the difference, right? The 62% probability of victory. But my point is this. Imavov does look like a good underdog on this card. He does have some value, and if you are leaning towards him, consider this a bit of a confirmation that I do recognize him with a lot of potential in this fight. He's unpredictable. He's good at the close range boxing as well. He's carrying that momentum and confidence. He's young as well. He's like 28 years old. Adesanya is 35. He's a bit faster, more powerful in general, just athletic, right? He's young. He's heading towards his prime. He's not even probably in his prime yet. So all in all, if you are taking Nassourdine Imavov, I could see him getting a decision victory. We're going to talk about bets at the end of this video, but he is the first promising underdog that I wanted to recognize for you guys. So the next promising underdog that I really liked on this card was Michael Venom Page against Shara. So the advantages that Michael Page has statistically, he's an inch taller than Shara. He has a 6-inch longer reach than Shara does. And I think that's going to be absolutely key when you think of the good things about Michael Page's game. I'll go into that in a second. Now, Michael Page, he also observes 3.04 less strikes per minute. He has a 12% higher striking defense as well. All things considered, I ended up giving Page a 30% probability of victory. I am leaning towards the Shara side, but I do recognize the potential that Michael Page has to pull off an upset here, and I'm going to share what I've researched with you guys and what I've noticed in his previous fights. Just taking a look at the guy's record first, though, he's won 22 fights. He's finished 73% of those. He's had 2 fights within the UFC, of which he's won 1. If you zoom out of his record just a little bit, he's recently won 3 of his last 5 fights, but most recently he's coming off of a loss into this fight. Just for you guys' information, the last time he lost was back in June of 2024. Let's talk about the good things that Michael Page brings to the table in this fight. First of all, I would say it is his unorthodox fighting style. The guy is very unconventional, right? He has this karate-based stance. He has some unpredictable footwork as well. But what I really like about Page that we saw in his previous fights is his counter-striking. That makes him a huge threat within the octagon. And that's going to be tough for Shara, especially if Shara's defense is a little bit shaky. Looking back at this particular fight, I would make the final probability a little bit more normalized. I think maybe 70% is just a bit too much for Shara, but I still think that Shara will win. I could see Michael pulling off an upset though, which is why I wanted to feature him here. What I also like about Michael Page is that he's really good at keeping the distance. He keeps his range and he kind of picks his opponents apart from afar, and I think that might be able to give Shara a little bit of trouble when it comes to that pressure heavy style that Shara brings, right? Now, also, Michael Page, he is versatile and pretty unpredictable himself. He does like to switch stances, and he throws these unpredictable attacks sometimes. I think he's going to have to deploy a little bit more of that as well, while also being cautious. I really like the different types of kicks that he utilizes in his fight game plan, and he also has good experience in some high-pressure situations as well. I mean, he has 22 wins and only 3 losses in his professional fighting career, and so he's fought in some high-stakes fights before, and I think that he just has a little bit more of that upper experience than Shara does. So I really like Michael Page's creative striking, so I could see him potentially pulling off an upset. I mean, full disclosure, I still am going with Shara. The whole point of this video is to point out value for you guys. So if you guys are already kind of leaning towards Michael Page, then let this be a bit of a confirmation that I do understand why, and I'm sharing my research there. So that's the whole point right now. All things considered, I think Michael Page could defeat Shara and pull off an upset, and if he were to do that, I think it would be via decision. I don't think he necessarily finishes Shara, just because Shara is pretty durable overall. Now, the next promising underdog that I want to highlight for you guys is Ziam. Now, Ziam, he has a height advantage of 1 inch over Mike Davis. He's also 5 years younger than him. He also has a reach advantage of 3 inches. Now, he also absorbs 4.1 less strikes per minute with an 11% higher striking defense and a 3% higher takedown defense. Now, all things considered, I gave Ziam, who's an underdog, a 59% probability of victory. So I do think that this underdog will pull off the upset on this card. And I think he's a great underdog to feature in this video. The guy's won 16 fights. He's finished 63% of them. He's had 8 fights within the UFC, of which he's won 6. Recently, he's won 4 of his last 5 fights, but he's also on a 4-fight win streak coming into this fight. So this guy's confident, and he also has great skill. So let's talk about his stylistic advantages real quick. The guy is really good at striking at range. He has this kickboxing background, and that really lets him do well from a distance. He maintains that range, and he works with these really quick combinations, and that just gives him an edge in that stand-up game. Now, compared to someone like Davis, Davis likes to fight in close quarters. He likes to fight in the pocket. He's kind of like a, he fights close. Now, Ziam, he's kind of the perfect opponent for him in the sense that because he likes to keep the range, he's going to have the advantage in that regard. And not only that, but when you look at the physical advantages that Ziam has, he's a little bit taller and he has a 3-inch greater reach. That's going to let him execute his game plan really well against Mike Davis, in my opinion. Also, I like Ziam's defensive skills. So let's say Davis is a little bit aggressive. I think that Ziam, he doesn't absorb a lot of strikes per minute. We saw that in the stats, but you could also see that in his previous fights. Davis, on the other hand, because he's very aggressive and close quarter type of fighter, he does absorb a lot of strikes compared to Ziam. So Ziam, I could see him picking Davis apart from the distance a little bit and using his kicking game. That's huge. He's going to use those leg kicks. He's going to snap those kicks very, very quickly. He's done that before, and I could see him doing it again. So all in all, I think that Ziam will have the fight control. I don't think Ziam's going to get the finish. Let me be honest with you guys. I do see this going to the judges, like I said, for a unanimous decision, and we'll talk bets at the end of this video. So the next promising underdog that I really want to highlight for you guys is Lucas Alexander. Now, Lucas Alexander has a 3-inch height advantage over Bogdangrad. He also has a 3-inch reach advantage over him. Along with that, he has a 9% better striking accuracy while absorbing 8.4 less strikes per minute, and he also has a 22% higher striking defense. Now, all things considered, the statistical analysis outside of stats, I ended up giving Lucas Alexander a 45% probability of victory. And that means that he is a really good underdog to feature because he has value there. 45% probability is very, very close to that 50-50 line. I mean, this fight is a hair away from going either direction, right? Let's look at his record. Lucas Alexander, he's won 8 fights. He's finished 38% of them. Now, he's had 3 fights within the UFC. He's only won 1 of those, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to stick. Because recently, if you zoom out a little bit, he's won 3 of his last 5 fights, and he does have, some good skills that he showed off in the regional scene. Now, he is coming off of a loss into this fight. The last time he lost was back in November of 2023, so it's been a while. Granted, hopefully he's learned and trained a little bit there, but I do think there's some value here if you like Lucas Alexander. Here's what I like about him and his game. First of all, he does have a height and reach advantage in this fight. I think he has a 3-inch height advantage and a 3-inch reach advantage, like we said. I like his striking technique also. I mean, he uses his length really well. He has these like long straight punches that he uses, and he also has a really good 1-2 combination that I like. He also does these feints, which you can see it really frustrates his opponents, and it has before, and I think it might do that a little bit to Bogdangrad. Full disclosure, I'm still going with Bogdangrad. I gave him a 55% probability of victory, but this is a pretty good opportunity if you like Lucas Alexander. Now, another good thing about Alexander, I do appreciate his movement and his footwork. I mean, he has really good lateral movement, and that just makes him a little bit harder to hit very cleanly. You have to, be a little bit more careful and cautious when you're striking against someone like that. Otherwise, you're going to continue to miss, and they're going to light you up with the counters. And so what he does well is he stays on the outside. He punishes opponents as they continue to just close that distance. He has that speed and agility, which might pose a problem for Grad. Because Grad, he's a pressure style fighter. Now, I also like Lucas Alexander's experience. They're both kind of new to the UFC, but he's already had 3 fights, and I know he hasn't won most of them, but that's still good experience overall. I also like his defensive skills overall. I mean, he stops a lot of significant strikes that people throw at him, and a lot of that has to do with his movement and his footwork, like I said. But that is another thing that I wanted to mention. All in all, if Lucas was able to pull off the upset, I think he's going to get it done via decision. It wouldn't shock me. Again, 45% probability victory for Lucas Alexander. So if you did want to throw a little money that way just to, risk and reward, then that is something you could consider. Now, the final promising underdog that I want to share with you guys before I get into the favorites that I really like for this card that I think are a little bit inexpensive compared to their probability of victory, and before getting into the bets at the end of this video, the final promising underdog is going to be Jamal Pokes. Now, Jamal, he has a height advantage of 1 inch here, and he's 3 years younger, along with the reach advantage of 5 inches against Hamdi Abdelwahab. Now, the thing is, all things considered, I gave Jamal a 47% probability of victory. If you thought Lucas Alexander was close, my prediction for this fight, it's a 47% probability of victory for Jamal and a 53% probability for Hamdi. Now, I'll tell you why, and I think that this is a great underdog to feature for this card. Good value here. Now, Jamal, he's won 11 fights. He's finished 45% of those, so he's had a good amount of control in a lot of his fights as well. He's had 3 fights within the UFC, of which he's won 2, which is impressive. Recently, he's won 4 of his last 5 fights. That's great momentum, and he's also coming off of a win, so he does have some confidence coming into this fight. The last time he actually lost was back in July of 2023, so it's been quite a while. But let's talk about the good things that Jamal has in his favor for this fight. The first thing I would say is his experience and overall activity. I mean, he has a lot of recent fight experience, and Abdelwahab, on the other hand, he's been a little bit inactive if you look at his record. And, that had to do with suspensions and blah, blah, blah. But Jamal, he's remained active within the UFC, and so that just helps you have a better fight rhythm overall. It keeps you a little bit sharper. I'm not saying that that guarantees Jamal a victory, but you get what I'm trying to say. Now, I also like Jamal's cardio and pacing. I mean, he's known for his cardio and just his ability to just maintain a good pace throughout a fight. He's kind of this grinding type of fighter who just goes the distance, and that could be kind of crucial against a guy like Abdelwahab, who could potentially face some cardio issues. I mean, if you look at the guy, and also with the layoff, you can understand what I'm trying to say. Jamal, I will say I do also like that he does have a bit of a reach advantage here compared to Abdul Wahab. 5-inch reach advantage, it's significant, especially in MMA. I mean, a lot of guys, they don't leverage their reach advantage the way they should in MMA. They do in boxing, but not so much in MMA. But Jamal, I think I like what I see out of him, and I think he uses his reach pretty well. He's also one of those adaptable type of fighters. He can sometimes combine some grappling with striking, and I just like what he does there. He adjusts according to like his opponent's strengths and weaknesses. I also appreciate his takedown defense. Now, Abdul Wahab, he has a good wrestling background, but Jamal, he has shown some good takedown defense, especially in his recent fights, and I think that might neutralize some of Abdul Wahab's advantages, which made me normalize this fight, right? Because I didn't want to give too much of an advantage to Hamdi. I still think Hamdi's going to win, but guys, it's a 53% confidence. And what does that tell me? That tells me Jamal has a lot of value here if you think he's going to win. He has more experience and all of that, right? I also like that he's pretty composed. Like, he's had more fights under his belt, like I said. He's kind of a composed fighter, and that experience is pretty valuable. Just to wrap it up, though, I think Jamal, if he is able to pull off this upset here, which he has a good opportunity and probability of doing so, I think he would do it via decision if you guys needed to put a definitive prediction on the underdog. I think Jamal might get it done via decision. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the best inexpensive favorites for this card. Now, for the favorites, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go over their statistical advantages here. I've already covered a lot of their advantages in my previous video, which you definitely should watch that prediction video if you haven't already. It should help you out a lot. It should add a lot of context to each individual fight. But for these guys, for the favorites, I'm just going to rush through their stats, and then we'll get right to the bets here. So first inexpensive and confident favorite that I want to highlight for you all is Sergey Pavlovich. Now, Sergey, he has a height advantage of 1 inch here. He's 4 years younger. He has a reach advantage of 6 inches, and he lands 2.11 more strikes per minute. All things considered, not just statistically, but stylistically, I'm giving Sergey a 79% probability of victory, and I think is a good favorite to feature on this video. So the next inexpensive and confident favorite that I want to share with you guys is Said Nurmagomedov. Now, I know this is a bit earlier in the card, but I think that Said Nurmagomedov is a great favorite to feature. I mean, the guy has 4% better accuracy, he absorbs 0.74 less strikes per minute, and he has a 4% better striking defense. Now, all things considered, I gave him a confident 71% probability of victory, and again, I think he's a really good favorite for this card. The next inexpensive and confident favorite that I want to highlight for you all is Muhammad Naimov. Now, Naimov, he has a height advantage of 2 inches. He's 1 year younger. He has a reach advantage of 4 inches. He lands 1.33 more strikes per minute with a 1% higher striking accuracy, and he absorbs 0.5 less strikes per minute. Now, all things considered, I gave Naimov a very confident 79% probability of victory for this fight, which puts him at a really good spot as a favorite. And for the last favorite, before we get into the bets, the final favorite that I want to highlight for you guys is Jasmine Jasudavicius. You gotta say it fast. You gotta punch it. Jasudavicius. She has a height advantage of 1 inch here. She has a reach advantage of 2 inches against her opponent. She absorbs 1.2 less strikes per minute. She lands 1.9 more takedowns on average. She has a 14% higher takedown accuracy with a 9% higher takedown defense. All things considered, I'm pretty confident in Jasmine. I gave her a 73% probability of victory, which makes her take that last spot as a really good favorite on this card. All right, guys, now let's take a look at those bets that I really like for this card from A to Z, all fights. I think that these bets have a good statistical and stylistic possibility of happening with all my research. And please disregard any kind of prop bets or bets where you're picking the other fighter to win. I mean, don't just take all the bets, right? Do your due diligence. But because I'll offer opportunities on both sides for some of them. But anyways, I'll start from the top of the card and I'll work my way down. Let's go ahead and get started. For Israel Adesanya versus Nassourdine Imavov, for that fight, I would consider taking Adesanya via decision. You could also take this fight over 1.5 all the way to the distance, whatever your risk aversion level is, but I do like that over 1.5 to the distance as well for that main event. Going to the co-main event, Shara Magomedov versus Michael Page. For this fight, I would consider taking the over 1.5 to the distance, which whatever your comfort level is for each of those rounds, but I do see it going at least over 1.5. No other bets for that co-main event just to play it safe. For Sergey Pavlovich versus Rosenstreich, I would consider taking that fight as Pavlovich via KO/TKO. I think there's a really good chance that that happens. I would also recommend, if you want to play it a little bit safe, you could take that fight not going the distance or any of the under rounds, if I'm being honest. Either way, if you pick Rosenstreich to win or you really like Pavlovich, I don't see this fight going the distance, if I'm being quite honest with you guys. Let's continue. For Said Nurmagomedov versus Vinicius Oliveira, I would consider taking that fight over 1.5 to the distance, whatever your comfort level is for risk to reward for the next, and no other bets for that fight. For the next fight, Muhammad Naimov versus Khan, hopefully for that fight, I would take Naimov via KO/TKO, or if you want to play it a little bit differently, you could take the fight not go into the distance or any of the under rounds as well. That's a fight that I don't see going to the judges. For the next fight, for Shamil Ghazi versus Thomas Peterson, I would consider taking Shamil via KO/TKO. And again, one of those fights where I don't see it going the distance or the under rounds if you want to play a little bit neutral. For the next fight, Terrence McKinney versus Damir Hadzovic. For that fight, I would consider taking McKinney via KO/TKO. I think there's a really great chance that he gets that done. And again, if you want to play a little bit safer, you could take the fight not going the distance or any of the under rounds, or you could parlay and mix things up. For Farzian versus Mike Davis, I would consider the over 1.5 to the distance. I think that is very likely to happen. Although Ziam, I mean, it's going to be tough, but that's why I don't think there's going to be quite a finish there. If you want to play it safe, you could do that over 1.5. If you want to play it a little bit more for rewards, you could take the fight going the distance. I do see this fight going the distance regardless of who wins there. For Jasmine versus Mayra Bueno Silva, I would consider taking Jasmine via decision. I'm pretty confident in that. You could also take the fight going over 1.5 to the distance. You know how women's MMA works. A lot of those fights go the distance or they end up in the late rounds, so that will not hurt, right? For the next fight, Bogdan Grad versus Lucas Alexander, I would consider taking Grad via decision. I think that is what's going to happen. You could also take the over 1.5 to the distance for that fight. And lastly, for Hamdi Abdelwahab versus Jamal Pogues, for that fight, I would consider taking the over 1.5 to the distance, nothing else. And we did, I know it shows Abdul Karim Al-Sawadi versus Balaji Oki. However, we lost that fight, so go ahead and disregard that. I didn't even have any bets picked out for that fight because I really didn't know how that was going to play out. For the other ones, I did give my best research, my best opinion. Anyways, that pretty much wraps up this video. I mean, I really appreciate all you guys watching and being very supportive for the channel. We're continuing to grow the community, but I really appreciate the family that we have right now and the friends that we're making along the way, right? Please make sure to like and subscribe if you can for me. It would help the algorithm, it would help the channel grow, and I would really appreciate it. And check out the Patreon if you do want to support me through there. That $20 a month tier, I do include early results, picks, and bets. Basically all the information you guys see in the video, plus some more detailed analysis and stats for individual fights, for each individual fighter throughout their UFC career. You could see how they've done in different stats and stuff like that, and you could see the averages of the opponents that they've faced throughout history and make a determination of the current opponent they're facing, their advantages. If you're a stat nerd like I am, it really helps you out. I do all the work for you, and it helps out the channel. Anyways, your support always helps keep me encouraged and motivated to continue running all of this analysis for you guys and sharing all my insights. I really appreciate it once again, and see you guys in the next one. I hope you enjoy the event this weekend. And with that, those are all of the fights for this weekend's event. I hope you all enjoyed the analysis and that your bets hit. Thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe, as it'll help keep me motivated in creating these videos. Running this data, analysis, prediction models, and creating charts and graphs takes hours every day and week, so your support is always appreciated. Please also check out my Patreon if you'd like to support me through there. There's a $10 a month contribution option and a premium $20 a month option, which comes with early access to all of the analysis from this video, as well as promising underdogs, favorites, prop bets, and all of the extra data analysis and stats as well. This analysis, information, and these stats will help you with your bets, and it'll help support my efforts to continue providing and expanding content for you all. So please check out that Patreon if you want to show me some love and help me out there. Thank you all once again for watching, and as always, see you guys in the next one.